Amanda Gorman, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, just to start, I'll pick up where you've just left off with The Miracle of Mourning. This is a
Mm,
poem that you wrote in this moment. Tell me about how it came to be.
right. Well, I was really looking around at the news that I and my family and my community was taking in, and I felt like my world and my country was in a very dark place. And so we decided to try to write this poem as a type of reminder of all the things that we have to be grateful and hopeful for. And really the inspiration for the poem came from watching people in their daily lives. I'm so fortunate that I have a window in my room. So I was watching families take walks. I was seeing dogs outside. I was seeing grandmothers. So I was really trying to incorporate that into the poem.
Well, it's funny because that was going to be one of the questions I asked you is it difficult to write? Is it difficult to be creative in this time where so many people are struggling and a lot of people are having depression now and
Mm.
it's hard to find the positive, but you didn't seem to struggle anyway.
I will be honest and say that the struggle is there. I think of hope not as an end state, but really as a struggle, as a journey, as something that you have to continuously fight for. And for me, as I reflect and I was writing that poem, I was thinking about Martin Luther King writing from a Birmingham jail, a letter on racial injustice. I was thinking about Nelson Mandela writing and reading while he was in jail for decades. I was thinking of Anne Frank writing while she was hiding from Nazis. And so all that is to say, I was thinking about what do humans do when they are scared and alone and isolated from the rest of the world? And often it's truth telling and it's telling stories that matter no matter what. And so I was trying to remind myself of that past to say, as challenging as this might feel right now, we've gone through a lot worse. And if this poem can shed any light, I'm glad to add that.
Well, as I mentioned, you wrote this during the pandemic, which feels like forever, but actually isn't that
Yeah.
a huge amount of time? Do you normally write as fast as you wrote this one?
Oh, that's a fascinating question. I would say usually my poems tend to be expedited. I see something, I latch onto it, and I want to chase it down. So that poem was probably written over 2 days. I would love to see a chapter in my life in which I can take more time in a poem, but right now where so much is going on, I'm really responding to events as they unfurl. So that was very fast paced for me.
And how do you know when you have it?
It's a leap of faith. You really don't. For me, it's not aiming for a specific way that the poem should look or the specific words that it should have. I'm really after an end point, which is a feeling. How do I feel when I read this poem? How do the people around me feel when I share with them? And if I can access that type of emotion, which for this one was hope, then I've done the best that I can do.
Well, speaking of sharing, I've watched a lot of your poems now and the poems that you've delivered, and there's a performance aspect to
Mm.
them. And I'm wondering how that comes into being when you're writing, if they're
Mm.
two separate aspects or you write knowing that you will be verbalizing them.
That's a great question. For me, I come from both a written tradition and also a very long-standing oral tradition. So for me, poems aren't just about kind of the text that's on the page, which is important to me, but it's also about the performativity. Because if I can have someone understand again that hope, that light with my hands, with my face, with my vocals, then that helps me get the job done that I need to do. So I don't consider it to be distinct. Particularly for me, growing up, I had a speech impediment. So I was writing to communicate my ideas, and I was also struggling to do that just on an auditory scale. So for me, I learned how to speak by writing poetry. And so those types of art forms are very integrated in my life.
Well, how did that work? How did that help you?
Great question. Well, for example, some things that I would do would be, let's say, listening to the Hamilton soundtrack. I had a very difficult time saying all of the R sounds. And Hamilton has Aaron Burr, Sir, Alexander Hamilton. And so if I can rap, if I can do those poetics at that speed and with their intonations, that was helping me figure out how to say this sound. Also, if I'm writing a poem, when I was younger, what I used to do is I would eliminate words that I couldn't say and try to find synonyms. But it got very difficult if I couldn't say R's and I was talking about girls and the world and earth and just all these things I could not say. And so instead of eliminating my voice, I decided to keep those words in the poem. And every single time that I performed them, use that as an opportunity to practice that sound. And so if I'm reading the poem and the word girl was coming up, I would see that in red text in my head, warning me we need to gear up for this. And so that's just one of the ways in which written text, spoken word, poetry really helped me find my voice in more ways than one.
You're the nation's first youth poet laureate. What opportunity, what responsibility does that bring?
Mm. I would say an incredible responsibility. I remember when I was named the inaugural Youth Poet Laureate, there was this feeling of pressure because I knew it was the guinea pig, I knew it was the first one, and beyond that, my naming was a provocation in itself, in that I was Black, I'm female, I'm young, and so there were all these kind of intersectionalities of my identity, which made this beyond the status quo. And so there was an extreme, I think, duty of sense of proving that this title is worthwhile and giving it to youth voices and especially marginalized voices. For me, I'm glad that now I get to kind of live on the opportunity scale of that, which is to say, kind of get over the pressure, breathe out a little bit more, and to really celebrate and mold and improvise with that title as I see fit.
I know you have programs whereby you work with underserved youth. How do you find that poetry does serve them? How is it a way to reach them and help?
Mm. Well, I'm the daughter of an English teacher, so the understanding of the power of words in a classroom has always been part of the values of my family. And for me, as I started teaching workshops to young students, there's nothing more electric than seeing that moment of that spark in their eyes where they realize I can write well, and what I have to say matters. And so for me, that's kind of the most important moment. I do a lot of work right now with an incredible organization called 826 National, which is the largest youth writing network in the country. And so for me, it's focusing on that, teaching literacy, but beyond that, how can we help empower students to use their own voice in all of the possible dimensions they can?
So with your mom as an English teacher, was there ever any choice but for you to be the nation's inaugural Youth Poet Laureate?
Sorry, say that again?
I said, with your mom as an English teacher, was there any other path for you other than to be the nation's Youth Poet Laureate?
It's so funny that you say that, because I remember when I told my mom I wanted to be a writer, her reaction was kind of like, oh God. My mom's been incredibly supportive of me. She is my number one cheerleader. But when she looked in my eyes, and I was even still young, and saw that I was very serious, that this was the career that I wanted for myself, she knew that the journey of a writer can be hard, it can be lonely, it can be strenuous, and you're not always compensated in the ways that you should be. And so I think my mom was kind of like, I want any other path if possible. She was kind of like, this writing thing's going well, but your sociology degree, keep that in your back pocket. But what's been really fulfilling for me is, as I've lived my life, not only for my family, but I think for other people and the literary community, I can participate in what it means to reimagine what it is to be a poet. I've done things that I don't think any other poet has done. I mean, like performing at the top of the Empire State Building, like who does that? And that's not to pat myself on the back, but I think we're breathing rare air, where to be a poet now means so much more than maybe it once did.
Well, why is that? You have had these incredible brushes already with Hillary Clinton and Lin-Manuel Miranda, most recently Oprah Winfrey.
Right.
And as you're so young to have this happen, but what does that mean to you? Is it giving license to poets, or yeah, what does it mean to have that wind at your sails?
Right. That's such a great question, because even I look up and I'm like, what is my life? What is going on? I mean, when I met Oprah, it was literally like I was living a dream. And that is to say, Ava DuVernay has this quotation I love, which is, if your dream only involves yourself, your dream is too small. And so for me, my dream, my largest fantasies have been something that's beyond myself. And the larger I can live those dreams, the larger and wider I can make those realities, that's not only an opportunity for me, but as you said, it's a way to invite other people to share that dream with me. It's to invite other young students to, become poets or writers if they want to, and if not, to still live and dream big in whatever capacity.
You've just had your graduation from Harvard. What is it to graduate in this time and to be deprived of that physical gathering?
Right. You know, when I imagine my graduation, I think like most people in the class of 2020, it was really about kind of the physicality of being there, of being in the seats, of seeing your commencement speakers, of being with your family, of tossing your hat up in the air. And to be honest, not having that in that kind of traditional way has just taught me what's most important about those moments. If I can still find a way to celebrate and be joyous with my family. You know, I bring up the fact that I'm the descendant of slaves. Moreover, I'm the descendant of a slave named Amanda. So that type of trajectory from my family being property to generations later me graduating from a place like Harvard, that speaks to such a larger legacy than myself. And just because I might not be in an auditorium does not belittle that accomplishment in any way, shape, or form. And so I think it's taught me to celebrate how this accomplishment took a village and it took a world to get us here to the point that I can graduate at all. And that's something that keeps me smiling.
Now that you've had this time at home and you are a graduate, you'll have this time. A lot of us have this time to think and to be introspective, to be existential. How are you using this time, and is it all folded into your writing process now?
I think what's so fascinating from what I've been able to see in kind of my global travels is how productivity focused we tend to be in the United States. We have to get something out, we have to be working, and that's part of just kind of how our economic system goes. But I also think it's reminding us that there are some things that are more significant than that. I think, for example, as a writer, there's this huge expectation I've been seeing that in quarantine, you're supposed to be like writing these books and being very creative and productive at this time. And I'm like, this is hard. There's emotional labor going on. I'm trying to keep groceries in the house. I'm trying to wash my hands, you know, wear my N95 mask. And so not shaming or penalizing myself for not getting a certain number of pages out today. So I'm trying to take both my writing and my life one day, one morning at a time, and meet myself exactly where I am.
That said, there is a line in your bio that indicates you will be running for president in 2036. That's not one day at a time. That's very much, very much ahead.
That's decades at a time, yes.
But you are running for president?
Oh, yes. I mean, what's so funny is people act like I'm joking. I'm like, I'm dead serious. Like, why wouldn't I be? I kind of looked up, and this happened years ago, and my teacher had said it kind of as a joke to me, like, oh, you should have run for president. I kind of looked at him. I was like, well, why not? And so I told my family, told my mom, and like, if you ask anyone in my family, we know we're dead serious. If my sister's at a party and someone's taking a photo, she's like, I can't be in that. My sister's running for president 20 years from now. I can't be in a photo with you. And people understand and they move on.
Well, I fully expect, Amanda Gorman, that this interview will be in the Amanda Gorman Presidential Library.
Yes.
I'm counting on it.
In Digital Archive Center. Yes, very true.
Well, before we leave, I know you have one other poem that you're going to perform. I heard from my producers you didn't, as of about 2 hours ago, have a title for it. I'm wondering if you have a title now.
Oh. I did come up with one, and then I was like, scratch that. I will TBD name this The New World. But to give you some contextualization, this is a poem that I kind of wrote reflecting on what it means to graduate here now in the times that we're in, and what that means for the world.
Well, Amanda Gorman, it's been such a pleasure to speak with you. You are making a world of difference already, and especially right now. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.